What's going on, my dear friends? Today in this video, let's learn and master the Angular framework's latest version. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. We know components in Angular are essential, but what if we need to add a behavior or modify the DOM elements directly? How do we do that? Can you guys guess? Yes, you are correct. We use Angular directives. So guys, what exactly are Angular directives? Well, Angular directives are classes that add additional behavior to elements in your Angular applications. They allow you to manipulate the DOM, which is the document object model, directly. This is important for creating dynamic and interactive web applications. So why are directives so important in Angular applications? Directives are a fundamental concept in Angular. They enable developers like us to extend the functionality of HTML by creating custom behavior that can be reused across our application. So with directives, we can change the appearance, behavior or layout of a DOM element, making our application more dynamic and user-friendly. So now let's talk about the different types of Angular directives. So there are three main types. The first one is the components directive. So these are the directives with a template. They are the most common directives that you guys are probably already using when you create components. Each component manages a part of the HTML for your application. It's like the captain of a team leading the charge. So next we have the structural directives. Guys, these are the ones that change the structure of the DOM by adding, removing or manipulating elements. You might have seen them as ngIf or ngFor. They are like the construction workers of your application, building and reshaping the UI. Next, we have the attribute directives. So these directives change the appearance or behavior of an element, component or another directive. So they are like the stylist of your application, tweaking the look and feel. Examples includes ngStyle or ngClass. So next we can create custom directives. So using this we can create our own custom directives from scratch. Understanding these types is essential as they form the building blocks of creating complex Angular applications. Each type of directive serves as a unique purpose and can be used in combination to achieve powerful results. So guys, once again, you guys might wonder, why should I use these directives in an Angular application? So using directives makes your app more responsive, dynamic and easier to manage. They let you to reuse code and keep your templates cleaner, which is great for maintenance. So yes, of course, who doesn't like clean, readable and more robust code, right? So let's get ready to explore the powerful world of Angular directives. In the next lecture, we'll start with structural directive, where we will learn how to dynamically add or remove elements from the DOM. So let's move on to the next lesson. Alright, so guys, now in this lecture, let's talk about component directives and structural directives. So as you guys know, we already learned about component directives, right? In Angular, we categorize components under directives. Basically, we use components to load a view inside the browser according to some conditions. So hope you guys remember this. So guys, keep this in your mind. Directives are kind of a component without a view, and Angular components are directives with a view. Everything you can do with an Angular directive, you can do with Angular component. So guys, this is the simple difference between Angular components and directives. Alright, so let's dive into the structural directives. So let's see what structural directives are available in Angular with the updated syntax. if, for, switch, and in the next lectures we will dive into each directives with detailed examples. So now let's focus on structural directives. Structural directives are special directives in Angular that can change the DOM layout by adding and removing elements based on a condition. They alter the structure of the DOM. For example, think about a situation where you want to display a welcome message only if the user is logged in. So in this case, we can use the if Angular directives to achieve this, right? So the most common structural directives in Angular are ngIf, ngFor, and the ngSwitch. But with Angular 17 and up, we have updated syntax for these directives, which are these @if, @for, and @switch cases. So we will no longer use these previous directive approach, right? So don't worry about this. You guys will get used to this in next lectures. Alright, so we use this @if directive to conditionally render elements based on a Boolean expression. So this @for directive we use to repeat an element for each item in a collection, and this switch directive we use this to display one of a set elements based on a matching criteria. So guys, now I think you guys have an overview of what structural directives are and the new syntax available in Angular 17 and up. These directives are powerful tools that allow you to control the DOM structure dynamically and efficiently. So guys, keep this in your mind. This section is very important, right? So in the upcoming lectures, we'll dive deeper into each directive, providing detailed examples and hands-on tasks to solidify your understanding. So let's move on to the next lecture. Alright, so let's dive into the if-else directive. Think that I want to show the username in the view only when user is logged in. How do you do that? Very simple. You guys already know about this. So for this we can use the if directive in Angular. So in the previous lecture, I told you that in the latest version of Angular, they introduced a new syntax approach for this if directive. But still, in any case, if you guys want to use the old version, you guys can use that also. So I show you both approaches so you guys can understand the old way and the new way. So first let's see the old way. Before that, I cleared all the previous codes. So first for this, we need two variables. So let's create them. As usual, inside the app component is file, create the variable. The first variable is for the user logged in status. So set the variable name as is logged in. Set the variable type to Boolean and the setter default value is something false. Next, create a variable for username. So the variable name is username and set the type to string. At last, set a default value to this John Doe. Alright, so next let's see how to load this username inside the browser view. So guys, how do we do that? I am not asking about the conditional loading, I am just asking how to load this username variable inside the browser view. Yes, of course, we can use string interpolation approach. So let's quickly do this inside the app component HTML file. Let's load this username. So we'll load this inside of an h2 tag. So create h2 tags. Between these, add the string interpolation scope. How do we do that? Open and close two curly brackets, right? So inside this, now pass the variable name, which is the user name. So guys, now save this and go to the browser. As you guys can see here, the username John Doe loaded here. Alright, now let's see how we can load this username conditionally inside the browser view when the logged in status true. So for this, as I said earlier, we gonna use the old approach, the ngIf directive. So let's see this in action. So if you guys can remember the previous lecture, the data binding. So like that, we have to add the ngIf also inside the HTML tags opening tag as a attributes. So inside this heading tags, add asterisk symbol, and after this add ngIf. So this I is capital. Now after this add the equal sign. So inside quotes pass the condition, which is we already stored inside of the is logged in variable. So pass that here. The variable name is logged in. So guys, this ngIf will render this heading tag only if this condition return true. Otherwise this will not load this inside the browser DOM. So guys, in order to work this directive, we have to import this ngIf directive module to this component. So go to the component ES file and add the ngIf module inside this import array. Add the module ngIf. So carefully follow these capital simple letters. So now select this autocomplete. So this will add the import statements automatically. So guys, this is coming from this Angular command package. That's it. So save this all and go to the browser. Inside the browser we got nothing. Why is that? Because we set this is logged in value to false. If this return false, ngIf will not load this inside the browser. Now let's change this false to true. Again save this and go to the browser. As you guys can see here, this time this loaded the username inside the browser. So guys, this is how we use the ngIf directive to load something inside the browser view based on a condition. Alright, so in the previous lecture we loaded this using the ngIf directive. So guys, this previous approach is the oldest way. So now let's look at the new way, which is the @if-else syntax way. So let's see this in action. We'll use the same example as previous. So down here again create another h3 tag and load the username using the string interpolation. Now let's see how we can load this inside the browser view using the new way. So nothing much, it's very simple. So just open and close the if condition scope. So the key is @if, after this condition parentheses and the scope. So simply open and close two curly brackets. So now inside this parentheses pass the condition, which is the boolean variable is logged in. Now inside the scope put this h3 tag that we want to show inside the browser view. So when this statement return true, this will load inside the browser. That's it. So this is simple, right? So this is same like the JavaScript and other programming languages if directive. Okay. So for this we don't need to import any modules like the previous ngIf. So save this all and go to the browser. As you guys can see here, this loaded the second username here, which is loaded using the syntax approach. So guys, this is how we use the new syntax approach in Angular. So guys, now in this lecture, let's see how the opposite of the if condition, which is the else condition, works. So how do we implement this to these two approaches? Think if I want to show a message, something user is not logged in instead of this username when the user is not logged in, or when this boolean value is set to false, how do we do that? It's very simple. So first let's look at the first approach, the ngIf directive approach. So guys, unfortunately in this ngIf directive, like this ngIf, we don't have another directive like ngElse. So in Angular, in order to show this user not logged in message, we have to use another same ngIf directive again, right? So before that, let's create the message. For this, let's use h4 tags. Open and close h4 tags. Between this, pass the message user is not logged in. Next, we have to show this message in the view when the user is not logged in. In other way, we have to show this message when this boolean value is set to false. As I said, for this also we have to use another ng if. So add the ng if directive, and the condition is, this time we have to check the opposite of this is logged in boolean value. So for this we can use the not operator. So we learned about this in the previous lecture, right? So the exclamation mark represents the not operator. So add that here. After this, add the variable is logged in. That's it. So guys, with this we are telling this to load this message when the statement returns false. So hope you guys got the idea. Now save this and go to the browser. We got the username. Why is that? Because this value is set to true boolean value. Now change this value to false. Save this and again go to the browser. As you guys can see here, now this loaded the user not logged in message, which means this condition worked. This return false. Awesome, right? So guys, this is how we deal with the else condition using the ng if directive. So next look at our second syntax approach. Guys, so how do we do this using this syntax approach? For this also guys, we can do the same approach like previous. We can create another if condition down here and we can check the false statement with the not operator. And we can load the not logged in message inside the browser view. Same like previous, right? Wait, let's write the code so you guys can understand this clearly. Down here again, create another if syntax block, at if, after this parentheses, and the if scope. Now the condition is the same as the previous, opposite of is logged in. So not operator, and the variable is logged in. Now inside the scope, let's pass the message that we want to show inside the browser view. For this also create an h4 tag, and the message is something user logged out. Add this also inside brackets, loaded using if syntax block. So now we can clearly differentiate these two approaches inside the browser. So now set this variable value to true. Inside the browser we cannot see any messages. So now again set this variable value to false. Now this loaded the both messages, ng if and if syntax blocks messages. So which means this also working fine. So guys, before we move on, in Angular, if we use this if syntax block approach in our Angular application, we have an advantage. This syntax block included the else block. So not like the previous ng if approach. So we can simply create an else block same as this if block and we can simply render the message. So let's see this in action. Down here after this first if block, create a else block same as this at symbol and the block is else. So for this we don't need a condition parameter. So just simply add the else block scope with curly brackets. Now pass the message, simply copy and paste the previous message and change this to loaded from else syntax block. That's it. So save this and go to the browser. As you guys can see here, this time this else block message also rendered inside the browser, which means this also working as we expected. So guys, keep this in your mind as a good practice. We will use this else block when we used the if syntax approach in our Angular application. So we will not create another new if block again. So guys, that's it for this lecture. Hope you guys got this. Right, so in the previous lecture, we learned about the else condition. When we learning the ng if directive approach, I said that there is no ng else directive. Guys, actually we have an else statement in a ng if directive, but its approach is something a little different. So in this lecture, learn about this in detail. So guys, in the previous lecture, we used another ng if to handle the else condition part. This worked, but it can get a bit messy when we have to deal with multiple conditions, right? So let's look at a cleaner way to do this. For this guys, in Angular, we have another directive which is ng template. So let's dive in. First, let's take the same example as the previous. I want to show this user not logged in message when this is logged in value set to false. So first let's define the message, which is this h4 tag. So let's duplicate this and remove the ngif, because now we don't need this ngif. Change the message to something loaded using ng template. Now we have to wrap this message inside of ng template tags. So guys, we use this ng template as HTML custom tags. So open and close ng template tags, ng-template. So now inside this, cut and paste this message. Alright, so now we have to give an identifier to this, so we can access this ng template outside of this. So for this we'll use template variables. We learned about this also in detail in the previous lecture, right? So how do we create a template variable? We declare a template variable using hash symbol, right? So hash symbol and the variable name, set this to something message. Awesome. Now we have the ng template. Now let's see how to deal with the else condition part. Nothing much. After this ng if condition, add this. So first add a semicolon. After this else keyword. Then we have to pass that we want to do in this else part. So in our case, for this we want to show this ng template message. So how do we pass that here? Very simple. Just simply pass this template variable here. So this will render this ng template message inside the view if this boolean value set to false. That's it. So save this and go to the browser. As you guys can see here, we got this message which is loaded from ng template. So guys, this is how we deal with ng if else condition. So guys, this approach is almost out of date. Throughout this course, we will use the latest syntax approach. If you guys don't get this, leave it. It will be not an issue. Alright, so let's move on to the next lecture.